So now that we've had some time to let the 2019 NHL Draft marinate into our minds, Jack Hughes and Capo Caco and Kirby Dach going in the top three this past season, let's take an early look at the 2020 NHL Draft. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe, and let's take a look at the top 5 or 6 players in this year's coming NHL entry draft. Alright, so to lead off the list is a player at number 1 that is probably going to be staying at number 1. And there are a couple of pretty good players around him, but this seems to be the consensus guy. Now, this has been a guy that's now been talked about for almost 3 years in Alexis Lafreniere, a player that is playing in the Rimouski Oceanic organization in the QMJHL. He was picked first overall back in 2017 for the Oceanic, and the last player to get picked first overall by Rimouski was none other than Sidney Crosby back in 2003. So now all of a sudden you throw in the comparable of Sidney Crosby to a kid like Alexis Lafreniere. Very exciting for a player that, he's got the skill level. He's probably a next generational talent in the NHL, a franchise-esque player. He is a left winger, and the excitement is definitely there. This past season, with the Rimouski Oceanic, he had 106 points in 61 games with the QMJHL's Oceanic. Unbelievable season for Lafreniere, and he's hoping to follow that up with an even better season this year. This is going to be a good draft for a player like him. He's from the Quebec area, and the Montreal Canadiens will be hosting this year's draft in Montreal. So very exciting to see the possibility of a prospect going first overall from pretty much his home area. So that's pretty nice for Alexis Lafreniere. And looking at number 2 on the list is Quinton Byfield, the centerman playing in the OHL. So again, not too far in Sudbury with the Sudbury Wolves. He's from Newmarket, Ontario, up in Canada. And the big thing with this guy, heading into this season is he is a 6'4", 214-pound player, a really big kid. He's 17 years old, and he has the build to play in the NHL. We may see a situation here, kind of like Capo Caco and Jack Hughes this past season, as obviously Lafreniere is a little bit bigger than Jack Hughes, but Quinton Byfield is definitely NHL ready. He could have been ready this year, just the way his birthday was and things like that. He is not ready quite yet, but he is one of the youngest players in this draft and this coming draft, and he is 6'4" already, and he's already almost 220 pounds, so he is definitely got the build to play with NHL players in their 30s and their mid to late 20s. He will fit in just fine. Obviously, the comparables coming back to a guy like Ryan Getzlaf, a power forward-esque player. He can score, but I think we're going to see, obviously with the way the NHL has changed, a guy like Quinton Byfield will have to provide more mobility and skill than a guy like Getzlaf did during his time. Another player up at number 3, we have Lucas Raymond, who is playing with Frölunda this coming season in Sweden. So he's already been playing with men for a couple of years, so he knows the way to play. He's a goal scorer with an explosive skating ability, and he has excellent hands, and that's huge, especially for today's game. There's another guy. He's going to be, a first-line player, hopefully. Another winger, and you can't go wrong with wingers. There's plenty of wingers around, but when you get a player like this, um, there's going to be high expectations for Raymond. And I hope this isn't a guy that falls in the draft just because he maybe doesn't have a great season, or even Byfield. I mean, I remember sitting here back in January last season talking about Podkolzin going in the top 3, and he ended up at number 10 or 11. So that's just the way it happens sometimes. But Lucas Raymond definitely going to be a pretty good player. So looking at the top 3, Alexis Lafreniere in his hometown, Quentin Byfield, the big centerman, and Lucas Raymond, the skilled Swedish winger. All right, so taking a look at number 4, I have Noel Gunler, a left winger and a right winger. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but Noel Gunler is playing with the Brooklyn Tigers in Sweden, not the Brooklyn you're thinking of. He likes to shoot. He has a goal scoring instinct, and that is definitely the way the NHL is going. Goal scoring is first and foremost. Skill, able to move the puck, and able to make some highlight reel moves in the course of a game. So Noel kind of jumped up on the list. I have him at number 4 here, but this is where things kind of move around in this year's draft. It's going to be based off of positioning, I feel, at this point. It's going to be kind of like this year's draft. You know, you got your 1, your 2, and then things kind of drop off a little bit from there. They can move around a lot. So, yeah, again, another good winger that someone could add to their top 6 probably within that first year. He'd probably be NHL ready. Justin Barron, a right-handed defenseman, was born and grew up in Halifax, and luckily enough, he was able to play with the Halifax Mooseheads of the QMJHL. So again, another guy in the local area in Quebec, and the Quebec area will definitely be having their fair share, hopefully, of top 5 players that may be from the native area. Really good player, reliable in his own zone. You know, you don't have to worry about turnovers, but he is known to give up some odd man rushes because he does have an offensive flair to him. He is a very mobile defenseman. He's not he's a big defenseman, but he has the ability to move the puck around, move the puck up in a play, get it to the forwards that can hopefully move the play forward into the offensive zone and create some dangerous scoring opportunities. So that's the kind of guy you're looking for in a guy like Justin Barron. He's 6'2", 192 pounds, so he's got the build for the NHL already. Kind of reminds me of a Bowen Byram, who we saw picked number 5 by the Colorado Avalanche this past draft. Another right-handed defenseman is Jamie Drysdale, there's another guy who's been talked about a lot, and he was rumored to be a top 3 guy even as early as last year. So this is, again, kind of a weird draft at this point. You can see a lot of these guys here at number 5 moving down to number 9, moving up to number 2. You never know. He's from Toronto, Ontario. So again, not as close as guys like Barron or Lafreniere, but still local Canadian area in the Ontario area. It's not too far from Montreal. Again, another mobile defenseman, a very highly skilled defenseman, a good puck mover. Again, kind of the same story with Barron. He doesn't have the size that Barron does. He's a little bit on the smaller side. Maybe he has another year, in the Canadian League to kind of, get a little bit bigger and more ready for the NHL game. But overall, Jamie Drysdale is going to be a pretty good player in the NHL. Definitely a top 4 defenseman, and hopefully a good addition to a hockey club. Now another guy to look at is Alexander Holtz, a guy that can play left wing or right wing. He kind of moves around. He's been playing with the Djurgårdens in the SHL. He has quick hands in tight spaces, and he has offensive instinct. Again, just rings the bell of a guy. He kind of reminds me of a guy like James Van Riemsdyk. He's got a little bit of size to him. He's got a little bit of, he plays a good two-way game, and he can score, and that's what the NHL is looking for. As much as teams want the highly skilled players that just score, like Lafreniere, and a guy like Jack Hughes, who we saw in this year's draft. Teams still want to look for guys like Van Riemsdyk, Verland. We see those power forward but can score kind of guys. That's kind of where I see a guy like Alexander Holtz fitting into the NHL. So, pretty exciting. Obviously, this is a very early look at the 2020 NHL Draft, but a lot of teams, maybe like the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, who hopefully will keep their first-round pick this year. But all kidding aside, some teams aren't really looking forward to this year. I mean, obviously they're looking forward to it, but they know that the results may not be there. Me being an Anaheim Ducks fan, more than likely being in the top 10 in the draft, I'm hoping that they can land one of these unbelievable players for years to come in the NHL. So let me know what you guys think of this draft class. It's pretty exciting. There's, who did I leave off this top 6 or 7 list that maybe you think could have been included, and who are you excited for? Obviously, the hype around Alexis Lafreniere is there, and he had an unbelievable tournament. He's had some unbelievable tournaments over the past couple of years, and the other guys on the list, I know I've heard of Jamie Drysdale, Quentin Byfield. These are names that I've heard of in the NHL games, and now coming to fruition, they may be making their way into the NHL very soon. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and a subscribe, and have a good day.